Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Andrew of the Cardboard Cohorts YouTube channel, your host for the Legion's Lounge. And I'm joined with CEO of Future Lore Studios, creator of Legion's Realms at War, the trading card game, Taylor Howe. Taylor, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Thanks for letting me come back.
Absolutely. I mean, you're the co-host. I don't have a choice, right?
Hey,
And
I don't run a dictatorship. So.
And the cog that keeps this podcast machine turning, the one, the only, our producer for this podcast, Matt Waller. Matt, what's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. What's up with you? You keep gassing me up like this.
I know, man. I gotta hype you up, dude. It's a podcast. We gotta hype people up, man. And tonight we have a special guest with us, Josh Yahtzee. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I had to ask before we started the podcast, and they said it's Yahtzee, just, enunciate a little bit different. So I hope I got that right, Josh.
It's close enough.
Hey, all right. So you are actually the Mythical Beast master. That's a little, I'm sure you guys are too young to understand that reference and probably have not seen the movie Beastmaster. It's a classic 80s movie. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend watching it. It's fantastic.
I've seen it. Josh is the Beastmaster for sure.
Absolutely.
I never have.
Yeah, neither have I. Don't worry.
Well, that's no surprise with you two. So you're all a bunch of youngsters. I probably got 2 decades on you both. So, but anyways, Josh, welcome to the podcast. Like I said, you are the Legion's Realms at War. Boy, messed that up. Legion's Realms at War Beastmaster. You rock the Mythical Beast deck, right?
That's what they tell me, at least.
I saw you at the tournament, man. You were rocking it pretty good, dude.
Well, thank you.
So I like to always start with guests, ask them this one question every time. How long you been playing TCGs? What was your first TCG? What's a game that just was like, okay, I love cardboard rectangles. This is for me. I want to keep playing.
Well, I played Magic extremely casually. And by that, I mean, I had a deck, maybe 2, that I could just play with a couple of friends and like in high school and stuff when you'd just be on your spare or something like that. But honestly, Legions is the first TCG that I've actually gotten into.
It's just like me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were just actually on the last episode with Pat. Taylor had mentioned that about Matt himself, that this is actually pretty much the first TCG he's played. So that's really interesting, man. It's kind of cool to see like this brand new game bringing in like new players when TCG's been out forever. It's pretty interesting, especially for me. I mean, like I've been telling people, I've been playing since 1993. So it's crazy to see that, I'm sure you grew up in the era of Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and all that, right?
I did, but never really got into it. Like I had friends that were, but it was more about the cartoons and different stuff like that for me, like with my friends, just for those games. Yeah. So like never got into the cards.
I never played Yu-Gi-Oh so much, but dude, when I tell you I was watching every single episode of that show for so long.
Really? So I played Yu-Gi-Oh a few times. It just wasn't for me. And Pokemon, I've always kind of viewed Pokemon as more that collectible card game rather than playing card game. People collect it more than they actually play it. So it's just 2 games I never actually sat down and got into. Like I've just been a Magic player a lot throughout my life. So it was just always my go-to game until, of course, Legion's Realms at War came along. So it's interesting that, to hear that that's pretty much your first TCG. That's pretty cool, man.
Well, like I've told Taylor before too, where it's just like getting in at the beginning, it definitely helps. Where it's like Magic, I think like I started playing Magic, like I said, extremely casually, but like in like 2012. And at that point, there's so much history behind it. They're already on reprints and all this stuff. And it just felt like I was always playing catch up.
Okay, so this kind of leads into a question.
Yeah.
This actually leads into a question that I wanted to ask, and it actually works out perfect since this is basically your first TCG. So this being your first TCG, what are your strengths and your weaknesses with this game, or just trading card games in general? If you dabble in any others like Magic and stuff, you said. What do you think your strengths and weaknesses are in TCGs?
Well, I mean, Taylor can attest to this. I don't actually I just play the game to have fun. It just so happens that I know how to play one deck very well. It's like I don't necessarily go into a game thinking I'm gonna win. Like I go into a tournament going, you know what? If I top 16, that's a good day. Like otherwise, I just get like the detriment's just too much at that point.
Well,
so like,
because, sorry, can I jump in?
Absolutely.
Like I think personally, like, right, playing a game competitively so much all the time, it ruins your mood to play the game. Just take a relax and have fun with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I don't participate in every single tournament that goes on. Just kind of, I'm not a competitive player. I said that several times. I'm kind of like you, Josh. I'm just more of a casual player. I do have a competitive side. Of course, when I lose, I get frustrated, and being in a competitive scene, that's not the best way to be. So I try to stay away from the competitive tournament scene as much as possible. But like we discussed in the first podcast we did for Legion's Lounge, this is actually, as long as I've been playing TCGs, this is the first game I've actually played competitively in a tournament, as well as like Opal and Caleb as well, the other two members of the cardboard cohort. So it's really cool how this game kind of, opens new doors for people like you and Matt, your first TCG, and me and Caleb and Opal playing our first tournament-based game. You know what I mean? It's really interesting how much this game has just kind of grasped people to try new things, which I think is really cool.
No, for sure. And yeah, like to answer your question then too, like weaknesses, I can honestly look back at myself and I can see a lot of them where it's just like the way that the game kind of unfolds and different synergies between cards and stuff. Like I'm a little bit slower to pick some of them up, like the more obvious ones that like people look at and go, oh, well, this card goes with this and this happens because of this and stuff like that. But to be fair,
you also are like the person who finds the weirdest play lines that like Taylor's like hiding behind locked doors.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too, where it's like I think my strength is just because it's my first, I'm also coming in with an open mind. I'm not influenced by any other games. So like I'm only looking at Legions for what it is, which is Legions. So like with Mythical Beast, there's a lot of combos and stuff that for me, it just makes sense because I don't have the background where it might, like in Magic, a certain combo might not work because of a certain thing. Where it's okay, well, it's Legions. It's just how it is. So it's kind of twofold.
One of the things that piggyback off that, I think one of the things that I really like about having Josh, at least in our local community, and seeing it transcend down to the United States when he made the trip down, is that he like he just said there that he finds things because he doesn't view our game through another game's lens. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Because in the TCG space, let's be real here, we're a niche market, right? So when you have such a concentrated market of only X amount of players that play TCGs in general, unless you're getting these new players to come in and play, you're basically pickpocketing from other TCGs and being that person's second game or this person's third game, right? And like they're viewing they're viewing your game through a lens of, I've had a lot of people say to me, well, your sequencing and your stack works very differently than in Magic. Or I've had people who are like, they on the face value, you see some Magic players look at it and they see that they have face down fortified cards. They're like immediately like, oh, that's like Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't want to play it. But it's so vastly different. But this is the thing is that one thing I've noticed is that when we get new players like Matt and Josh and some other people that have come along that this is their first TCG or their first time seriously diving into one, like Josh said, they look at it as face value. They don't look at it through another lens. And as a result, Josh has flourished in the fact that he can see play lines and combos that other players can't because they're coming in with a prerequisite knowledge from something else.
Yeah, I can definitely see that and attest to that, because as a Magic player, that it has been a very difficult transition for me, because in Magic, all cards are played face up. So when you're throwing these cards down on the field, face down, they're basically trap cards, your fortified cards. It makes you really sit and ponder, like, what, as a Magic player, what the hell is going on? Like, the first time playing it, like, I was like, the hell is going on with this game? Like, I'm so confused, because, like I said, I'd only dabbled in Yu-Gi-Oh just a little bit, and that was exactly the kind of mindset I had. What you said, Taylor. Like, as a Magic player, I saw that those trap cards, and it reminded me a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, which I'm not a fan of. So when I first did that review, like I said, it wasn't a sterling review. I didn't care for the game, and you wanted to prove me wrong, and you did. You sent me a box. I opened up some more stuff. I decided to keep playing and show it off to some of my friends and a couple of my kids here at the house, and kept playing and just instantly fell in love. And it was one of those things where it was like I had to. We all are afraid to try new things because we get used to comfortability. And that was like my biggest flaw, especially being a veteran in the military. I'm always have a set schedule or a certain way things are done. So changing my routine and my habits and things like that is always a hard thing for me to adjust. And it's same with TCGs. If I'm familiarized with something, that's how I like it. And I just had to keep giving the game a chance. And like I said, now it's definitely the game we play the most. I think my Magic decks have been collecting dust for at least, I don't think I picked up Magic at least in the last 3 months. It's just kind of collecting dust in the background.
But like adding on to that, it's like some people when like in the 5K, I heard it quite a few times, and it would be like, okay, I'm playing demons, I play Fallen Fervor, and then they just say scry or something of those lines, right? Or like,
yeah, verbiage is definitely a learning curve coming from like Magic with haste and things like that. Now I'm learning new verbiage on top of it, and you guys know as well. Legions isn't the only game we play as content creators. We're learning a new game probably every week to 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And at some point, these games just start meshing together, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, how do we like?" We were playing. We had started covering these other games, and we had been playing them, and we went back to Legions after like maybe a couple weeks not being able to play, and we were sitting there looking at each other, me and Caleb and Opal, and we're like, wait a minute, how many cards did we draw? Like it just got so confusing. So the more games you play too, the more confusing it can be as well, because you got to go back and kind of familiarize yourself again. So
no, exactly.
Well, one of the main things we really wanted to stay away from is the fact that, like, you're in this space where, like I said, it's a niche market, and most people are coming with a preconceived lens of games, right? So immediately, you hear it the most. What draws people to a game? Well, artwork, okay, and then next is usually card quality, and then third, unfortunately, is usually gameplay. But if you don't check off the first 2 boxes, they don't even get to the gameplay, right? So it's a delicate balance as a designer and a developer to make sure you check those first 2 boxes first, right?
Right.
And that's a major thing in the presentation of the card, just like when you eat, right? You eat with your eyes before you actually taste the meal. So the big thing with me is that I want to make sure that we check those 2 boxes. We've piqued people's interest. But now it's like, just have, like, we know that we're not going to come in and steal players. So we know we're not coming in to try and be the number 1 game. We're coming in with the understanding that Legions is affordable to get into. It's a welcoming community. It's a game that, if you're familiar with TCGs, it's really easy to pick up, because other than your verbiage, like you said there, we have elements that can be seen across multiple games.
Yeah.
Without being clones of another game. Right?
And as you said before, and we've all said before, you can't please everybody. Sometimes a Magic player is a Magic player, and you're not going to turn their attention away from Magic. Sometimes people are going to find anything to bitch and moan about. I actually saw Sorry, Josh, I'll get to you in a second, man. But I just wanted to bring this up real quick. I actually saw so Legion's Realms at War is actually taken off really, really well. I see it in social media quite a bit. I actually saw it in a forum today, and I'm not even a forums guy, but I was kind of searching some forum pages, and I actually saw it mentioned in a forum. And an interesting thing I saw, and this is one of those things where you get people that gripe and complain or bitch and moan, and they want this and that, but or nothing's ever good enough. I saw somebody say, well, it looks great. I'm not sure how it plays, but there's too much text on the cards. I'm like, okay, well, if there wasn't too much text on the cards, then would you complain that you didn't know how that card played? So it's kind of like one of those catch-22s. Do you want the text on the card so that verbatim it tells you how that card plays? Like there's no, okay, I got to stop and figure out what this terminology means. Like it's spelled out right there on the card, which means yes, there's going to be a little bit more text on the cards than on some other games. But like I said, that's just always one of those things. Whether you don't have to interpret, you don't have to decipher anything. It's like boom, right there on the card. And like I said, it's one of those. TCGs are those games where you're never going to please everybody. Like everybody's always gonna have something to complain about. And I personally, I like the fact that there's all this text on the cards because it leaves no room for error or mistake. I know exactly how that card plays. And I don't have to go back and find a rule guide or a book or a rule book and okay, well, what's the terminology for this? What does bestow mean? Or, what does blockade mean or hatch mean or whatever? It's going to tell you specifically right there on the card, which is what I really, really liked about it.
Well, and that's one thing, and this is where we can bring it back to both Matt and especially Josh here, is the fact that you guys are, new players to this, right? Like this being either your first or close to your first TCG, coming in and learning the game. Did you find in your first couple games, did you have to refer to a rule book, or were you able to just reading the card explains the card?
The first game I played, I was playing against AJ. He was playing Bouncy Dwarves. And I was just tossing my princes all over the place. Prince, wish, prince, wish, prince, wish. And it all made sense because it says what to do and the effects in order to do them. Sometimes I would be like, oh, sorry, this card can't be played right now because it's a fortified. But that's
How many pages is the Legion's Realms at War rulebook?
The comprehensive rulebook is 27 pages.
Okay. Now, does anybody here know how many pages Flesh and Bloods is?
Let me check that really quick.
Not off the no.
148, I believe it is, or 154.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it. I have a Flesh and Blood rulebook, and it is massive. I print out, like every game we cover, I print out a rule book and I just compare. Okay, this game's rule book compared to this one. How much thicker is it? How many more pages is it? And it's insane, man. Like that was one of the things that made Legions for me not one of those games where I was like, oh God, I got to read all this, because it was a small rule book. It's simple. It's easy to play, and it tells you everything you need to know right there. And that's what I really, really enjoy about it. So,
and this coming back to Josh here too, is he being in the community, and like I met him about just over a year ago, right? When he first started playing the game. So
the Ravaged Land release. Yeah.
Yeah. So the big thing is that like him being a new player, a new person in a friend group of mine. And the big thing is that I think was great is he came in and he challenged me. He pushed me to on things that, like, when it came to the game, because he thinks outside the box, and he's coming in, like I said, with that different lens. So he's coming in and seeing like, hey, so why does this card have this interaction? And does this interaction mean that I can do this instead of doing something else? And he really pushed the limits on what some of the interactions in the card mechanics do. And I think that's why he plays Mythical Beast as well as he does, because that deck is so it's easy on the surface and it's really easy to explain to a new player. But the more you dive into it, the more depth there is, and the more intricacies of combos there are at the high level of competition. And that's where Josh has really pushed me and has really challenged me on card design, specifically for that Legion. And I'll let him communicate on that, but I think that's a really good thing.
So Josh, why Mythical Beast? Why
no, I want to know that too. Like, what drew you
to it? Yeah,
the art.
Really,
plain and simple. My favorite art in the game is the Glare of the Mystic Fire Beings, which is the one with like the lion head.
Oh yeah.
I think it's just very, very, very well done.
So on to some questions.
So
like
that was it.
Adding on to that.
So basically, Josh went off pretty pictures.
Absolutely.
Dude, that's what I did too.
I don't know what it is. Like every game I pick up, and Caleb and Opal make fun of me all the time about this. Any game I pick up, I always pick up the hardest deck to play. And it's always the one that catches my attention that I want to play. And I always end up screwing myself because I don't know what the hell I'm doing most of the time. So it's kind of cool that, I look at like play style and I read over the cards like, okay, this, like for me, I haven't dabbled in Mythical Beast too much. I have a deck and it plays really well, but I'm not a control player. And I feel that's what Mythical Beast is. It controls the board. And it's just not really my play style. But it can also be kind of aggro too, because the ability to spawn so much onto
I've
the
been
board
one shot by them. Like turn.
I think every deck could actually be. I think every deck could play aggro if you really built it the right way. But like I said, I just feel like it's controlling the board because it's flooding the board so much, so fast that it's kind of like, damn man, it's kind of like a mountain deck in Magic where it's just like, okay, boom, it's flooding the board. Doesn't, it's not going to cost a lot to play. But honestly, I think Mythical Beast does cost a lot to play. The Bloodborne costs are super expensive.
Oh yeah.
That's been my one gripe against Taylor the whole time, is the fact that Mythical Beasts do not have a heal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's their biggest, one of the biggest detriments to them. It's just the fact,
and it's been my deterrent from playing them. Not only is it high cost because you're spending your own health, but their DCM, their damage counter max, is only what, 65?
Nope,
or is it 75?
It's 80.
Is there 80?
So that is 80.
Okay, so Marisad, the newest warlord,
is 65.
Okay.
Speaking of Marisad, what do you think of her?
Yeah.
I think she's gonna be fun.
I have
a
crystalline creations that she has, being able to manifest the crystal dragon eggs. It has me so itching to want to try it now. It really, really does.
Well, I feel like it's not going to play as people are anticipating, because I think a lot of people are and to kind of go back a little bit too, I also do really like Mythical Beasts, like just in terms of like in lore and different things. So that also drew my attention. But dragons as well. I don't think the dragon deck is going to work as people are anticipating. I could be proven wrong. It's spoiler season. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But
we still got a lot of cards to spoil for Empires on the Rise, quite a bit. So
exactly, but it just doesn't. It seems like the hatch, like the filling the board with the
eggs,
dragon eggs, is going to definitely. I don't know if I'd necessarily change anything, but it's going to be interesting to see the play lines that come of it. Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Mythical Beasts, in terms of dragons, are going to find a way to destroy their own dragon eggs to spawn stuff. But right now, we don't know the cards.
What does it do? It puts blockade of 5, right?
Yeah, so they're essentially like the hero tokens right now. So they have an attack of 5 with blockade, but then they also have hatch, which then when they're destroyed,
you can find 3 or less from your
Revive a Dragon Warrior.
Is it 3 or less? I don't remember that, but I believe
it
is 3 or less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taylor, is it 3 or less?
It is 3 or less, yeah.
Okay. So a dragon warrior from your eradication zone, you can revive it into that zone. That's an attack of 3 or less.
Wait, does it say into that zone?
Hey, let's all talk about really quick how impressive.
I'm pretty sure
how impressed everybody is that Andrew did his homework on this. I knew it was 3 or less. I actually did my homework because I knew we were doing Mythical Beast.
You're the expert now.
Now let's not get carried away.
Just piggybacking up what Josh said, I think people are going to be very surprised with dragons in Mythical Beasts and Empires on the Rise, because typically, dragons in fantasy, it's the king of all fantasy creatures, right? So dragons in every other fantasy, whether it's in a multimedia platform or in TCGs, they've historically been aggressive creatures, and decks built around them have been very fast and aggressive decks, where just like the Phoenixes in Mythical Beast currently, they can be aggressive, but they're a combo deck, and the dragon deck will be, like Josh was saying, I think it's going to throw people for a loop a little bit, because it is actually a much more defensive deck than you would think.
Well, because her magic attack lets you do damage to as many warriors as there are tokens on the field, right?
No, it's you deal as much. So you deal damage to all opponents' warriors. If I'm not saying this right, correct me, but you deal damage to all opponents' warriors based on how many I almost said hatchlings. How many dragon egg tokens you have on the field?
Oh, so basically, boom! You use her special. You manifest the 5 onto the field, and then you use the magic attack to basically wipe their board.
Yeah, their board. Yeah, they don't hurt your own ones, which is interesting.
Well, it had to be too, because then they become super aggressive, right? The ability that Marisad can break a board and deal big damage to the opponent's side of the field, but at the cost of putting eggs that can't attack on her side of the field, right?
Right. Yeah.
Marisad versus Marisad is going to be so interesting. You
only block with them.
Because it's the amount of eggs on the entire field, not just.
So in the mirror match, it'll be pretty crazy.
Just every turn, every single egg getting blown up.
Do you feel yourself changing warlords when Empires drops? I mean, I know you're probably going to test it out, but
well, here's the thing. I have not been shy to play anything. Like, I have played Mythical Beasts in 4 tournaments. I think that's it. Maybe 5.
Yeah, the 5K you played Angels.
It just so happens that the tournaments that Josh played Mythical Beasts in, he finishes 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So.
So like the 4K, the first 4K that we had last year, like I played Angels. The Bountiful Harvest tournament. Oh, I technically did play Mythical Beasts. I came up with this bounty dragon abomination that I was going into that tournament just hoping to win 1 game. Like, it was not going to win me the tournament, but I built it that morning and it was fun. Like, I played dwarves. I played angels at the Atlas 5K. Like, it's I'm going to definitely dabble in maybe not all of the new warlords. There's something about undead that just doesn't.
Join me.
I don't know. It doesn't entice me.
Oh.
Undead's not going to be cool until Masquerade anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know
when
what?
the vampires
I can
come,
kind
for
of,
sure.
Yeah, the vampires.
That's, wait, what'd you just say? What'd you just say? Hold on. Retract. What'd you just say, John? You said vampires?
Yeah, bro, I already got a deck name and everything,
It's all about werewolves, man.
No.
So, okay, so as a Mythical Beast player, then, what's a flaw that you might see in the deck in that Legion?
Oh, I love this question.
Oh, great. Here we go. The gloves come off.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The pant legs are rolled up, flipping off the flip-flops. No. So I think in Mythical Beasts right now, so this is only talking about the current Mystic Fire build, which is kind of the only one that you can really play. That's somewhat competitive, at least at this point. I would say one of the weaknesses is the lack of a heal.
Yep.
They have Dominion, but I find Dominion one, it heals 5, which is great. Like sometimes that's enough. But aside from a couple of cards that cost 4 Bloodborne, the lowest amount that I am paying is 6.
Yeah.
Right.
And the cards off the top of my head that I can even think of are Awakening with its pay 4, sack 2 to draw 2. And then you've got like Mystic Fire of the Manticore, which isn't even like necessarily main deck. Like it's I personally run it, but like there's definitely builds where you don't have to. So that's where like Dominion, it doesn't even heal you kind of back like even a full card.
Right.
So that definitely is one thing. But at the same time, you do have Shalara within the DCM of 80. So it does healing too much would also be an issue. But that's just one of the things. I think the bigger. Well, I don't run well. In Mystic Fire, you typically run mostly Mythical Beast cards. I don't run many bounty other than like Void Hollow,
Twilight
like
Mist.
literally the Exalteds, Void Hollow, Twilight Gardens, and Ophidian Effect. Other than that, I don't have any bounty.
Question for you though.
Sorry, and mists.
Yeah, and question though, do you find that like, how do you feel that you have a really good tutor though? How does that feel? Like, do you think that's a good part of the deck? Like Origins?
Like, yeah, it's obviously a good part of the deck. Like, I'm not gonna say it's not.
Do you rely on it?
Absolutely. Like, that's the thing where it's like Mythical Beasts, at least the way that I run them, where to your point, Andrew, I run them fairly aggro. Where like I'm not necessarily messing with the board state every turn. Like I could very well, like I've had games where it's just like, okay, you can't kill me this turn, I don't think. So like I'm just making the calculation of, okay, you can't kill me, I'll just wait a turn and then try and pop off next turn.
Right.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I play it more aggro, and in that case, like honestly, you almost need that Origins to tutor the Mystic Fire cards. Now, at the same time, you almost it's almost a necessity to play the Origins after you have an Awakening. And that's the kind of caveat, because like if you're playing, like that's where the Mystic Fire cards that are the act cards. So to kind of answer your question as well, the board state I think is a little bit of a weakness in the sense of
it's so clogged.
Exactly. So in order to kind of get to the point where you can do damage, you're filling up 3 of your unified slots because you've got Awakening, and then you need Arena and Conflag to really do any damage.
And then for speed, or not speed, just for more power, you run ley lines as well, so that's a 4th.
I do not run ley lines.
You don't run ley lines at all?
Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Who's your guardian?
So you're kind of jealous of the new Titan Warlord. You do some of that reducing DCM. You see that on her?
Yeah. I don't know. I like Shalara.
Yeah.
In the sense of like I have absolutely no problem using her special ability. And I have used it to literally just draw 1 card.
I've played them. Like I said, I've dabbled with the Mythical Beast. I haven't lost with them too much when I played with them, but I have gotten very close to losing only because I was just, like I said, spinning my own DCM, my own health. It's very hard especially when you're not familiar with that deck and you don't play it constantly. Just playing it like strategically so you don't end up screwing yourself. It is. So I can kind of see why you just stick to that one deck. And like you said, you dabble in everything, but that's your go-to deck. And it's kind of like one of those things where you're comfortable with it, you are. So
yeah, and I mean, to that point too, I have won so many games on like 1 or 2 life remaining.
Right.
Like it's just how the deck, like it's I find when people, like some people pick up the deck, they're like trying to conserve their health. And like I was like that at the beginning, and then I'm just like, you know what, this isn't working. So there are so many plays that I'm like literally just like looking at it and going, we'll see what happens. And just all of a sudden I pay 20 life. And it's just like, okay. I've had Taylor literally looking at me going, what are you doing?
So you're telling me just make
And
one
then he
big
usually
turn
wins those games.
that doesn't kill
Yeah.
you. Make one big
They're
turn that doesn't
usually
kill you.
against you too, Taylor.
Exactly.
So what is your least favorite legion to play against then when playing Mythical Beast? What's the one legion that you're just like, God, I don't want to.
Undead for the jealousy.
Why the jealousy?
Undead can heal like 65 in a turn.
Me personally, I hate playing against demons, especially
Demon
when
sucks.
especially when you're playing a heroes deck like I used to play constantly. You know, buffing up your warrior, and then boom, it's gone. I can't stand it.
So I actually don't mind. I think demons, or mythical beasts rather, have a fairly decent matchup into demons because, like, oh cool, you're gonna steal my hatchlings. Okay, once they go to your side, Mystic Fire Arena doesn't see them anymore.
But Conflag still does.
Well, it's one of those things where my side is still boosted, but like I can also, like, against demons, my biggest go-to is just, okay, cool, I will just make sure you don't have any warriors to steal.
Right.
And I can do that fairly easily because there's a lot of cards that like allow me to just destroy my own hatchlings and such.
I think
right.
Very key point too that I think Josh maybe he was getting here, but Mythical Beasts, out of all the legions in the game, they have the best ability at breaking boards. Shalara on face value, she is probably just standalone, not her deck included, just her as a warlord. She's out of the 8, she's the strongest warlord in the game out of the original 8. Right, her ability to just destroy unified and fortified cards on the field and have them not be destroyed by card effect. I know that was a lot of new players had to adjust to that. Josh was able to steal some victories because of that. But Mythical Beast's ability to just break a board, I think that's one of the main reasons why they're so effective against demons, because demons rely on having a very strong board presence, not just in stealing warriors, but having ability to lock the opponent's deck down, and Mythical Beasts just pick it apart.
Yeah.
So Mike, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So which Guardian do you run, since we're speaking about the left side?
So I run Serena Sada. So
okay.
Mythical Beasts, how I've built them. So like there's definitely ways to play around it, but I find a lot of the Mythical Beast support is based on consume. So like
so you're using her for the higher consume.
Literally, I use her for the higher AP. It's nice.
Yeah, she's got what, the 80, correct? She's the only Guardian with 80, right?
Yeah. So like Mythical Beasts, like honestly, the Maul is just a bonus. Yeah. Like like Magical Ward is such a good card in Mythical Beasts, but it costs 20 consume. So if I was using Ragnmund or Viviana, like the other two choices that I have 2 of them. And if I use 2 of them, I have 10 left. And at that point, I really can't do much.
So you said your AP is very important.
Yes.
Have you considered Overflow?
Yes.
Do you run Overflow?
No.
Why not?
Because, like I said, I run my deck very aggro, and if I need Overflow, I've lost.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Josh runs the deck very lean and mean.
So we were talking about, like, what's your least favorite deck to play against, right? And what was your answer?
So my least favorite deck to play against is honestly the Outer Rim Orcs.
Yeah. They're disgusting.
Because it's one of those things with the rampage.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I can't deal with it.
Yeah,
like it's so hard for me to really do anything about it. Like I have beat it once or twice, but like it's so hard to play against just because like
Well, the deck just comes at you so hard, so fast, right?
Yeah, orcs are so aggro.
Yeah.
Especially somebody pulls that damn blood axe. You're like, oh, really, dude? Really?
Actually, even in my build, if we're speaking about orcs, I didn't even run Blood Axe.
I honestly personally don't run it in mine too, but I played a couple decks that have played it, and I'm not a fan of getting it played against me, but I don't run one in mine either. Mostly only because I have it in my collection and I didn't want to play it. And as you guys know, I had one before, and then we all know about the horrible cardboard disaster of Andrew's life, where I lost a lot of my cards due to a weather storm. So when I got that other second Blood Axe I pulled, I just put it in my collector's binder, and I refused to pull it out of there. Which is what I've unfortunately had to do with a lot of my replace Exalteds and Renowns. I just put a lot of them inside my collector's binder, which is kind of sucked because you want to put them in your deck and play them, but at the same time, I'm a collector as well, and I just don't want anything to happen to him. And I'm so nervous after that day. So,
speaking of collectors, I think we need to. This is the first guest we've had on that is the owner of an entire not only master set of or master play set of cards from one or two sets. He owns the entire master class.
Nice.
Minus a few. I still haven't put the order.
You are short a few?
I still haven't put the order in for the ancient relics from Bountiful Harvest that I'm missing. But I have one of every. I think I have two of every one of them. It's just a case of going to Nerds and putting an order in to get the rest of them. But yeah, Frontiers and Ravaged Lands.
Ravaged Lands. The set that's out of print, Josh has the entire master set.
And Frontiers.
True. Nice. So speaking of sets, let's ask you this, man. What's your favorite set so far? We've had Ravaged Lands, we've had Bountiful Harvest, and we've had Frontiers. What's the one that you've liked the most? Oh, look, I got him with this brain buster, guys. That was like the simple question. I thought, shit.
Well, like, I like Ravaged Lands just because, like, it kind of set the tone for, like, most of the decks that play now.
It's so funny, dude, that you say that because you think you'd listen to the other podcasts already, but that's literally what basically Pat said too. I think that's kind of what we all feel.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's also the only booster set.
Right.
Right. Like the other ones have been more supplementary, which is great, but like it's Ravaged Lands. Not only did it come out like at first and like when the game came out, and it kind of allowed the decks to play how they needed to. It's the only deck that like was meant to do that. Whereas all the other ones, it's like, yeah, we're gonna change like the meta a little bit and add some elements, but at the same time, it's still supplementary. It's still setting up the next set. So,
what's your least favorite?
Honestly, I would probably just say Bountiful Harvest, just because it's the smallest.
Ironic, dude. Ironic.
Well, it's one of those things where I feel I'm definitely of the mind where like it is so underestimated. Like there are cards in there that like nobody plays, and like
I mean, though, without it, you wouldn't have Sarasota, so...
Well, exactly. And there's also the cards like Mists, Welcome, Viviana, Serena
Cockabell was a cool card.
Cockabell, Ren. Yeah, like all of them.
Yeah, Red Renegade was sweet, man.
Yeah, like... It was a great set. I'm not trying to take away from that. It was just... I feel like it hasn't been explored properly yet. And for me, again, because my main deck is Mythical Beasts, and with Mythical Beasts, I find it's the best to, at least currently, build it more like pure, with only a few bounty.
Not using bounty cards, using very little bounty cards. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So, I had another question. Go back to you as a tournament player. How was it going from the Canadian tournaments there and coming down here to Clarksville, Tennessee at Guild Vault Games and playing in your first US tournament. How different was it? How did you find it tougher to play in that tournament because you're playing against new players, new decks? Like, what was your thought process going into that?
Honestly, going into it, I was just going down for a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I kind of told you my mentality going into tournaments where I'm just like, I just want a top 16. Like, I was not expecting, like, I can't go into a tournament and expect to do well, because then if I don't, then I'm just going to be like distraught afterwards. And so like, it's just not worth it. So like I went into it to have a good time. Now it was also like, I was not guaranteed to play Mythical Beast even. I think I'd even messaged you beforehand just saying like, hey, what's not played down there?
Yeah.
And then you said Angels, Dwarves, and Mythical Beasts. And I'm like, well, I know there's one guy who plays Dwarves. At the time, I figured Caleb, I was told he was coming, he would play Angels. Now, obviously, that didn't work out for various reasons, but
I mean,
yeah.
It happened.
But yeah, so I'm just like,
yeah,
okay.
it kind of sucked for Caleb because Caleb didn't plan on playing in the tournament because, you know, he owns his own business, but also he just moved. So all his cards are literally in storage right now. So he had no deck to play with. And I felt so bad because it's like, he does rock that Angel deck really, really well. Like really, really well. And I was like, man, you know, when I walked in and he told me he was playing, I was like, well, what deck are you using? He's like, well, I'm using a dwarf deck. I was like, dude, you've never played dwarfs the entire time. The entire year we've been playing this game, I've never even seen you pick up a dwarf deck. Like, and I was like, oh man, he's either gonna get lucky or it's gonna suck for Caleb. And it sucked for Caleb, but he's like you. He doesn't care. He's just there to have a good time. So he like I said, he was just there to meet people and have fun. So
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the best mentality to have, though.
Yeah, he got 15th, but and Samuel Graham got 16th, and Samuel actually did play the Angels, if I remember right. Yeah, so
he did,
and he's just like, there's something, like he said to me, there was just something there, like he loves the artwork for Angels, that's what drew him to it, but he said, I just don't think it's my Legion, so he's going to, you know, experiment with some new stuff for the next tournament and whatnot. So I'm interested to see what he comes up with. I think he's leaning towards Demons, honestly. So
sounds
another
right.
Demons player. Yeah. How was it, man? How did you have a good time? Was it cool meeting everybody?
Absolutely.
What'd you think of that? What'd you think of Guild Vault and all that stuff too? You know, let us know, man. Fill us with it. Let us know.
Yeah, no, honestly, like we got down there, me and AJ there, we drove together, and we didn't get invited out for dinner or anything.
No.
We just,
no. Let's stop right there. Okay, so check this out, guys. So we had Taylor, Ryan, and Paul, and then of course Josh and AJ, who drove separately, right? So I sent a message and like, hey, this is where we're gonna meet for dinner. Well, we were in the assumption that we didn't know you guys drove separately. So I was just assuming everybody was together. So we went to this nice little Mexican restaurant, which, you know, Paul was like, dude, this was the place to go. This was like the hands down the best burrito I've ever had in my entire life. I was like, hey, Andrew, you did a good job. You hit the jackpot. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. We just had a good time, you know, bullshitting and hanging out and meeting everybody for the first time. And, you know, we were told that you guys drove separately and this and that. So we thought you were running late. Well, we find out that you'd only been about 5 minutes behind them. Or actually, I think you guys got in town before them, right? Or was it after?
I think we were ahead of them.
So not only did you get in town before them, but you literally had dinner across the fucking street.
What's going on?
Literally, I could have walked outside, spit, and hit Yellowtail from the Mexican restaurant. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They were just right across the street this entire time. I was like, these sons of guns, man. But
if Ryan's phone hadn't have died, that's what we'll blame it on.
We'll blame it on Ryan. Well, yeah,
exactly.
We'll just blame it on Ryan. Yeah, but what'd you think of Guild Vault, man?
No, it was cool. Like we went to, so as I was saying, like we went out to eat, and then we were like, you know what? Let's go scope it out, see if like, just make sure how to get there and stuff. And it's like, oh, it's open. And it's like, because our store closes at 10, so we're like, oh, it won't be open, whatever.
Midnight,
like,
man.
Yeah, which again we weren't expecting. So we're just like, yeah, let's go in. So we went in and got recognized immediately because AJ was wearing his Legion's attire.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
And they were probably
welcoming.
like, look at these lunatics in shorts and flip flops. They have to be from Canada.
Probably.
Because I mean, it was like what, 30 degrees outside that day.
No idea. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, you're
Gorgeous.
a psychopath, my friend, because it was freezing cold.
But yeah, no. So no, everyone. Like, I think Nick was the one that met us at the door, and that's when the gig was up and all that. But no, everyone, we ended up staying and talking with. There were a bunch of people practicing for the tournament the next day, and
it was honestly so funny though, seeing like Opal like freak out, being like, "Why is AJ in like sandals?" It was so funny.
Yeah,
like just from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it was me too. We were both in sandals.
Yeah,
like was that just for the jokes of it, or like?
No, I don't own shoes.
So you actually played Opal in the tournament.
I still feel bad.
He played. Not only did he play her, he played her in the final round of Swiss and then the first round of top 8, back to back.
And
which she was hoping wasn't going to happen.
Well, her veil did not pierce once.
Yeah, she distinctly had told me and Caleb that she said, "I hope to God that in this tournament, I don't get stuck playing AJ or Josh anytime early in the tournament." And then I just laughed. Well, it was a missed opportune time for her. We'll put it that way. But she still made top 8, so it's okay.
Well, and that was the thing. She turned to me after the first, so after I beat her the first time, she turned to me. She's like, "Yeah, I needed to beat you to make top 8." And then I just feel like a dick. I'm like, oh, this, now I just feel horrible. Then she ended up being 7th, which was great. And because I was 2nd, I ended up playing her first game, and it was.
The turnout ended up pretty good, right? Like we had a good amount of players.
I think there were 16, if I'm remembering correctly.
Correct.
But I know there were also like 6 people that were just, they couldn't get off work.
Which we discussed. Me and Taylor and Matt talked to Pat on the last episode. The problem with that is military town, man. People fluctuate in and out so much.
Oh, absolutely.
Deployments and things like that. So that's a bad part of LGS in military towns. You can never keep the player base. It's not because they don't want to play. It's not because they've moved.
They're just not in the area for now.
There's deployments going on. There's
absolutely
field duties and stuff like that going on. So it's just hard to keep that player base all the time. But I think the player base was for the first U.S. Legions tournament I thought was fantastic. It just gave me motivation anyways to push to make the next one even bigger, which is my goal. I have some things in mind to do that. So,
well, and
Josh is gonna make the trip back down, right? So he's got it. That's just him. That's what he does.
I haven't told my girlfriend that yet, so
that's okay. See that was your key word, girlfriend, not wife. Girlfriends, you can still do whatever you want. Wives, you cannot.
I mean,
he just sighs long. He's like,
I live with her and we have a dog, so it's like I can't just leave my dog.
Yeah.
See, that's a little more difficult. Yeah.
I was just teasing, man. You got to treat your ladies right, man.
Oh no, I just can't leave the dog.
That, yeah,
he's like, it's not the girlfriend, it's the dog. I can't leave the dog.
Well, I got a text from her earlier saying that she's just standing in front of the door crying because she wants out to me. But no, I thought Guild Vault, and especially because I think afterwards there was, I know when we were playing, there was one group before that came in and started playing Magic right beside us, right beside the game I was playing in, and apparently, from what I understand, the next day, so that Sunday, they were in getting stuff to play Legions.
Well, come on, man. Where do you think all these Legions players came from? Magic.
Well, that's just it. But it's one of those things where it's there's people that it seems like the community grew even after the tournament. So it's the next tournament could be.
Well, you have to remember, Legions Realms at War didn't come into Guild Vault till maybe a month and a half.
No,
or
exactly.
maybe so for them to be able to get that many players to play in the tournament, the
It's
first
phenomenal.
tournament in that short amount of time, I thought was, might not be big numbers to some people, but I thought it was rather impressive in a short amount of time to get that many players to go from one game that they've probably been playing for years to try something new to actually be part of a tournament. So, and it's those tournaments, they do them every Thursday for Legions Realms at War now. And sometimes they have a better turnout for the Legions tournaments than they do the Magic tournaments.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think Ed posted in the Discord that they're potentially going to Sunday tournaments as well.
Yeah, just pick up a second day. Yeah.
So see, that works. So that works for Andrew. So it's very hard for me and the cohorts to go support on the weekdays because we have kids and we have families, but also we have Thursdays are one of our content creating nights. So like that's one of the nights we do live videos. So for them to be actually, thinking about doing a Sunday tournament, it works out way better for me because Sunday is my down day to do anything I want anyways. And I'm sure that it'll be an earlier tournament instead of like 6 o'clock at night. So I'll be able to actually participate more if they did them on Sundays. It's just the weekdays are hard. That's just unfortunately one of our stream nights, and it's hard, but to make the tournaments those nights. So
I just piggybacking off what Josh said there too. I think that shows great growth, right? It's the fact that they've accumulated enough players to pick up a second tournament night. Like you said, for a store that's had the product for 2 months, just a little over 2 months now.
Yeah.
So that bodes really well. Like I said, I got a message saying that, our player base has grown, and since we've been back, Guild Vault has ordered more 2-player battle decks, like starter product. So right there, that tells me like that's not already existing players buying starter product. That's new players, right?
Well, it's kind of like this. Some people have been playing, like up there in Canada, have been playing Legions at like Nerds and Atlas and stuff, where the game's already there and they come into it and people are playing. I look at it this way as a looking at it a different viewpoint. I took the LGS kit that you sent into Guild Vault when there was literally nobody there that had even heard of that game, ever heard of Legions Realms of War. And we sat down and we did the learn to play, and I talked to Joe and told him what Future Lore Studios offers to LGSs, and watching it go from 0 players that had never heard of the game before to a tournament a month and a half later of 16 people, which was short 6-7 people due to deployments and things. That is what really, just looking at it at that viewpoint, was just, to me, super amazing, because everybody, like I said, some of the players there in Canada, they rolled into Nerds and Atlas, and it's already been going there. So they're like, okay, everybody's playing Legions. We started from nothing, nobody hearing of the game. So I just thought that was really cool to see that, and to have been a part of that growth was just simply amazing,
Yeah,
and that's why
I
that's why I really thank. Sorry, Matt, go for it.
You want to go?
I was just gonna say I really thank like Josh and AJ for making that trip, right? Like
absolutely,
those kind of things don't go unnoticed, but like those kind of things are what help our blossoming community, right? Like these are 2 of our higher skilled players making the drive from another country, 10.5 hours down to Tennessee, right? So like, and that's the kind of stuff, like when they said they were in, and that, months before when we were planning the whole tournament, they said, yeah, we're in, we're going to make the trip, right? I was already planning on making the trip. They said they're in, and then just incentivizes us like, yes, let's do this, right? So, and then we were able to get Ryan shortly after, and he made the trip with us as well. So we felt as though that, like, not only having Canadian players come down to represent the playing community from the north, but also me myself making that trip down there, I felt that not only was it something I wanted to do, but it was something that was necessary to show the faith to the community that, like, hey, we may be a game not from America, but that doesn't stop us, right? Like, we're going to show that we support, and you guys welcomed us with open arms, and like that's the big thing is that we wanted to show that we are going to make the effort and make the distance to travel to another country to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, like it's not a short trip from Canada to Clarksville, Tennessee, but you guys made the trip. You showed that you support local game stores, that you support the community and the players. That's what I think was really important to see, which I know I wish other LGSs, other communities could see how much it means to Legions of Realms at War, the community and the LGSs, because you guys truly, truly do care. It was amazing to actually sit down and meet all of you, and because we've only talked through Discord or social media, but actually being able to meet everybody, and I hated that I did not get to sit down with Josh or AJ longer and actually have converse with them. But the tournament was so hectic and it was so long, and there was just so much going on. There just wasn't time for it. And I felt bad because I felt like I needed more one-on-one time with them. But like I told you too, Taylor, I get to talk to you guys every day, all day. And I wanted the community there to be able to talk and converse, and as a content creator, as somebody that gets to talk to you guys every day, all day, I felt it was important for me to step back and let everybody else have that opportunity. So I just thought it was really cool that everybody got to meet the creator of this game and these amazing tournament players. It was very awesome.
To be fair, Josh does play Mythical Beast, so his games go to time often.
Yes, they sure did.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it happens.
And Josh, you got to meet another content creator besides the cardboard cohorts. You got to meet Samuel Graham.
I did briefly. Again, That's one where I didn't really get to sit down with them either, just because again it's a little bit of a chaotic day. But no,
amazing guy, man.
Exactly.
Can't wait to have him on the podcast. I know we're planning on a episode with him. He's a fantastic guy, man. He's a big supporter of Legions Realms at War, and just like I said, down to earth, awesome dude, like you guys are. So
I know you said you had a big list of questions for Josh. Any ones left there lingering that's burning over there for you, Andrew?
No, because unfortunately what he did when I asked a question, he went right into another question I was going to ask, and he pretty much answered my questions without me asking them. So wow, way to be prepared, Josh. Thanks a lot.
I got like 2 or 3 left.
Okay. Let's knock them out.
So obviously your favorite Legion. What's your favorite card?
Glare of the Mystic Fire Beings.
Yep, he already said it.
Yeah, what's your favorite artwork?
Well, actually, sorry. Favorite artwork is Glare of the Mystic Fire Beings. My favorite card, Pandesh's Gifted Sprite.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because Taylor doesn't think it belongs in the deck.
you just play it out of spite.
Hey,
honestly,
it's a great card.
And how do you feel about the watch list as it stands?
I mean, it doesn't affect Mythical Beast a ton.
No.
There are definitely some cards on there that I agree with being on there. I don't personally play the decks that have been hit the most, so I'm not like from a playing against standpoint. It's like, yes, I love this watch list, but I also can't speak to the other side. So
well, I mean,
right.
not even speaking of in like a I think this is great, I think this is bad sense, like because I'm not playing against these cards anymore. Like, do you think it's healthy? Or do you think it's like
it hasn't stopped me losing? So
listen to that cockiness, my God.
No. I said it hasn't stopped me from losing.
Yeah.
To those decks, as in like.
So I don't think the watch list right now is an imperative thing. I mean, it's the game's been out a year. It's not like there's a metric shit ton of cards on the watch list, on a restriction list. I don't think it's anything detrimental to the specific legions or anything at this moment to where it's just gonna screw those legions. But then again, as the game goes on with these expansion stuff, I could possibly see it becoming an issue on down the road. It's just right now I just don't think it's anything too crazy or hectic in my personal opinion.
I think a very important and key thing that I think it's glazed over a lot. I watch a lot of Legion's content, not just your channel, Andrew, but others. And one of the major things that since our tournament season started and since the implementation of the watch list, it's something that we were transparent with the community right from the very beginning, being a non-rotational game, that if you're not going to rotate cards, eventually you're going to have to restrict cards. It's just the way it goes. There's nothing you can do. There's so many different pathways of testing. It's just our job as a developer and creator to make sure we produce the best game and put our best foot forward in terms of overall balance and card design. But the key thing I think that gets missed or glazed over a lot is the fact that the watch list is in fact a watch list. It is not actually a list that the cards that appear on the watch list are not cards that are restricted. And I think that's a common misconception. We've had some content creators even look at the watch list and just automatically associate that with a ban list, and that's not it. The cards that are on the watch list are still cards that can be played. They're not banned. They're just cards that we are paying closer attention to in case we need to act on them. We're just it's the watch list only exists to be completely transparent with our community,
so that people aren't surprised when it's like, hey, boom.
Exactly. Yeah. We're letting people know that these are the cards we're watching for, and these are the things that we want to tell people. It's not just out of the middle of nowhere. I know that like quarterly, I think it's like every 3 months, like or 3 or 4 months, that Yu-Gi-Oh drops a ban list out of nowhere, and just people like they speculate what's going to be on it, but then just like boom, it hits, and then there's a frenzy. Either people just sell off a bunch of cards, or they go to shops and buy a bunch of stuff that came off the ban list, right? Like it's a frenzy when that happens, and people like players anticipate, and they know the week of the ban list is supposed to come down, they're supposed to be watching, and we don't want that. We want it to be transparent and open with the community as much as possible. So things that exist on the watch list are there as our open communication to our player base, that these are the cards we understand could potentially in time or with new cards become a concern. So we are just openly letting you know that these are cards that we are observing more closely.
Right, like the perfect example with that is Magic Flowers of Rainbow Autumn, right? Like the consume 30, bring everything that's non-bounty on the field back to their hand. I think it might not be great yet. I mean, it's pretty good in Orc, but like it's gonna be even better later on. You know?
Yeah, as Bounty gets more support, and when they get the playable Warlord, and it then cards like that see a massive spike and a resurgence in play, and that's why it's stuff like that we preemptively put there to let people know, like, hey, we're trying to cover all our bases, we're watching things. But like I said, there it doesn't mean there's cards that have been on the watch list for ever since it was instated and has not been touched yet. So
we have a Bounty Warlord on the way, do we not?
Yes. So interesting note with Marianas, we are going to be doing updates to our as a Kickstarter. While you're listening to this podcast, the Kickstarter is currently underway, but we have some shaking up of next year, and when you're listening to this, the website will already have been updated. But Marianas, the Corsair of Despair deck, we are pushing later in the year because our main focus was to get Empires out to everyone, and we felt as though that yes, we had a decision. We could put her out early and delay Empire's release, or do we just release Empires, the set that everyone's waiting for and has been anticipating for a long time? And we didn't want to go with the smaller product, since we just came off of an expansion and a blister product, like Josh mentioned earlier, as almost supplemental like products. We wanted to go right to the Kingpin booster box, since Ravaged Lands is now out of print, and we felt as though that Empires can slot in and take that position now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know, fellas. I think that could wrap up the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot.
I just got one final question. We asked everybody so far. For you, Josh, how excited are you for Empires on the Rise?
Hell yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, it's going to shake this game up big time.
Is there something specifically you're excited about, Josh?
I'm just excited for, like, okay, I'm a troll by nature. I'm excited to just reveal Warlords and just not have the deck match people's expectations completely. Like, there's so much variety that's going to be had with the additional Warlords that it's going to be really fun to like not necessarily have mirror matches when you're playing the same Legion.
Right,
and
yeah.
different stuff like that. Like it's
And new Guardians that we haven't even seen. We don't even know what they're going to be doing yet. So it's gonna be insane, man. I'm stoked for Empires. So I really was like, okay, Empires would be cool. But the more I see being dropped and spoilers, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty gung ho for Empires. I mean, it's no Masquerade. We know why I'm waiting for Masquerade, but Empires looks legit. Shut your mouth. Just shut it. But yeah, man.
Bro,
I think we'll wrap
one
up
last
there.
thing there, Andrew. Yeah. The key thing is like I said in the other podcast. So while you're listening to this will be the Kickstarter will be live. Please go. We have awesome pledges. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see it. Just go to Kickstarter, see the pledges we offer. There's 4 tiers for players, and there's 3 tiers for LGSs. We want to make sure that players and stores, both existing and new, get the best deals they possibly can. We have full customizable add-ons that can go on to any tier. Plus, we have some amazing stretch goals. We have backer stretch goals. We have Discord community member stretch goals, as well as monetary stretch goals. So it's all stuff that we can do to work together as a community, make this set the best possible, and make this set the best release possible. So the set is done. It is finished. It's been fully tested over a year ago now, almost. So it's ready to go. And so it's just a matter of let's expand, let's scale up this community, and let's get this set into people's hands.
Yeah, and like I said, in the description of this podcast, you'll have the links to that Kickstarter. If you want to learn more about Legions Realms at War, we'll have a link to the Discord and all their social media pages as well. Join the community, ask some questions. The community has been popping off lately as we post these spoilers for Empires on the Rise. We're getting a lot of new members into the Discord, curious about the game, asking questions. It's been exciting. It's been fun meeting new people, curious about the game. So we'll have all those links in the description of the video. Make sure you click them, check them out. It's a great place to learn more about the game and meet just literally one of the best communities out there right now. So opinion.
Andrew, before we head out, where can they find this podcast and future podcasts?
So this podcast is being aired on Anchor FM. And Anchor FM, so if you don't know what Anchor FM does, is that, hold on, guys. Anchor FM will, once we publish the episode, it will instantly take the podcast and send it to anywhere that has literally a podcast platform. We're talking everything from, let me get to the list here so I'm not lying to anybody. 1 second. So it will go to Apple iTunes, it'll go to Google Play, it'll go to Overcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Stitcher, and Spotify. So you'll be able to find the Legions Lounge podcast on all those platforms. So make sure you're checking us out. Like we said, it's a great way just to sit down and kick back for the day and listen to some dudes talk about some TCGs, and ladies. We'll have some ladies in the episodes as well. So just a great way to sit back and learn more about the game and just everybody's passion and love for Legions Realms at War. And like I said, a perfect way also to kind of sweeten the deal a little bit. If you join the Discord, you can even sign up to be a guest on the Legions Lounge podcast and actually have a chance to talk with the creator of this game, pick his brain, ask him some questions.
Which is honestly so fun.
Which, I mean, honestly, what other game's doing that right now? What other game can you go into the Discord, sign up for a podcast, and actually talk to the creative game? Like Taylor has time to be doing this shit, guys. He's trying to create a game. He's pushing out expansions, testing cards, developing cards, these backstories, this lore. But he still takes time out of his day for the community to do this podcast once a week and bring in new players to pick his brain and ask him questions. If that doesn't tell you something about the game and the creator, I don't know what else will, because that to me is hands down one of the coolest things.
Oh, 100%.
So I think we'll wrap up the podcast there. Josh, I appreciate your time. You came very well prepared. I had some questions, but
You kept
like I said, I'm not
spiraling
here
through all
to.
of them, man.
I'm not here to like try to stump people or make people look stupid. It's literally just questions, just to get what your passion is for the game and what you like most about it. I'm never gonna have these brain busting questions that try to throw people for a loop. That's not who I am or how I am. I just really just a way for me to kick back and talk to some good people and have fun for the night. So appreciate you for taking time out of your day, Josh. I know we better let you go take care of that dog. The girlfriend can obviously take care of herself by what you said. So if she's listening to this, that's what he said. I heard him say it.
Oh, geez, that's a.
You're welcome,
Hope
Josh.
I don't eat
have
that
fun.
one.
Have fun with that one, buddy. Because I get to go to sleep next to my wife tonight and be comfy and have no issues. So good luck with that one, buddy. I hope it all works out for you.
This won't
And,
air for a couple months yet. So
yeah.
No. Thanks for having me on.
She's like, you know what? Your next trip to Clarksville, Tennessee, because of that guy, you're not going, dude. You're staying here.
Either that, or she's gonna let him go, and then just shack
change
up
all
with Andrew.
change all the locks and everything, and then Josh is now my new roommate.
Well, I mean, if the dates that Taylor was telling me are still the same, if it's one of the weekends, she's in New York, so we're both gone. So she can't change the locks. I'll be home before her.
There you go. As always, Taylor, I appreciate your time, man. I know you're a busy guy, but thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this podcast with me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for wanting me to be a part of it. This has been awesome, and this is something I really look forward to continuing on all the way through our year 2, right? So
honestly, this is something I love recording.
Yeah, Matt, the cog that keeps the podcast turning, baby. Really appreciate everything you do. Awesome producer, does all the editing, does all the recording, basically makes my life easy. So I just have to sit here and talk and ramble. So I appreciate all your hard work and dedication to the podcast and the community in whole. So appreciate it, Matt.
Dude, thank you so much, man. It's honestly, it's not a lot. You make it sound like it's a lot. It's really not.
Well, I'd be sitting there looking at it forever trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing. So kudos to you, my dude. But anyways, guys, I appreciate it. You all have a good night. And like I said, we'll put all the descriptions of those all those links in the description of the video. Click them. Check out Legions Realms at War. One of the greatest TCGs out right now. So show some support, show some interest, and come hang out with us.
Check out that Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah, Kickstarter, for sure. We'll be blasting info, so follow us on social medias too. Legions Realms at War. You type it in, you'll probably find it. It's all over the place. So check it out and follow the socials and ask questions and join the community. Again, thanks everybody, and
thanks
everybody
for listening.
have a great night.
Take
and
it
we
easy.
will definitely see you on the next episode.
See you in the next lounge.